welcome to another episode of Entertainment Talk with Claypool, where we bring in guests from the entertainment world, from film, television, and the music industry, and a variety of genres in those industries. Today I'm excited because today I have Christian Stokes, and I had been trying to get this gentleman to book with me for some time, but due to challenges with schedules and due to challenges with the strike with the union, we weren't able to. So we are got Christian live online now. So everybody, I'd like you to welcome Christian Stokes to the show. Welcome, Christian.
How's it going, everybody? It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it was a little hop, skip, and a jump, but we got here, man. We got here.
Okay, did I say the last name correctly? Stokes.
That's me. I am Stokes. Stoked to be here.
Stoked to be here. That's a beautiful name, man. You can do a lot of things with your career with just that name, first or last. So anyway, again, it's a pleasure having you here. Christian is a actor. He's a stuntman. He's been in the industry for at least 2 decades in a variety of film, television, and different roles in those. A couple of ones that I really found interesting is that you were in a Five Nights at Freddy's with Josh Hutcherson.
That's right.
And he's from the Hunger Games, which was a very successful series. So congratulations to your role on that. You played the role of Hank. So who's Hank? What was that role about?
So Hank is a ne'er-do-well. I have a hashtag in front of my career. It's called Career Bad Guy. I always play the ne'er-do-well. So I play a guy that gets hired to trash this old abandoned haunted pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's. And we go in and we take that pizza parlor out. I mean, I'm breaking everything. Only problem is that this place is it's haunted by a bunch of reanimated animatronics that have children ghosts that possess them. And so I woke up some bad stuff, and it did not end well for Hank.
So Hank is he starts out in the film, but maybe doesn't finish in the film.
Oh, his finish is pretty strong, but I would say that Hank probably, if he were able to write the script himself, he would have had a different ending. Yeah.
Okay. Well, personally, I haven't seen the film yet, but I definitely intend to because I like the fact. I'm not a real big horror fan, but it sounds like it's a little bit of horror and sci-fi almost.
Well, an interesting thing about this movie is based on a video game that came out in 2014, so it has a huge fan base, millions strong.
Wow.
And, it's almost like the Star Wars fan base before the Star Wars movie. So overnight, I think it's grossed $280 million in the box office since.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
4 weeks ago. Yeah, it was number one in the world for 2 weeks straight. So
yeah, it had had roughly a $20 million budget and turned out $280 million.
Yeah,
so that's a good return on investment for sure. For the
they say so. It's one of those very interesting. It streamed Peacock. It had a streaming release on the same day that it was released in theaters.
Right.
And so I think they thought it wasn't going to do as well in the box office, and it broke all the records in the box office. It's the number one movie Blumhouse, most profitable movie Blumhouse has ever produced. And it's the crazy thing is that on Peacock, 5 days in, it was the most downloaded show on Peacock since its inception. It was crazy. It's crazy.
Well, ever since COVID, they started launching things, at the theater and online at the same time. Yeah. And some production companies have got away from it and are going back to just the theater because they are trying to get more people back into the theaters because I don't think it hasn't reached the numbers that it was before COVID. And I think part of that is because, why do I have to go to the theater to watch it if they're streaming it at the same time? So there, it's kind of like darned if you do, darned if you don't. Sort of, you're kind of taking away some of the business from the theaters by streaming it. But hats off to you, man. What a great honor to be in, part of such a very successful film.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are others. Apparently, there are other films coming down the pipe. So that's really exciting. We like to hear that.
So there's another
connection yet, but they're coming down the pipe. That's the main thing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, the thing is that you always stay busy, right?
That's it.
Looking at your IMDb, the thing that as actors we always want to be building more and more credits on IMDb. You want to see stuff in production. You want to see that you have had productions in the past. You got productions current. You got things coming up, because that shows, casting directors, you're staying busy. You're being cast. So I got actually a question for you related to IMDb. So your star meter, right? It's like for us actors and anybody in the film and television, it's like our measurement of success almost, right? And that star meter the star meter is all over the place. So those that my viewers, my listeners, yours is, I looked at it this morning and yours is at 17,166. And for those that may not know, the lower the number, the better. So if you're below 1,000, you're a superstar. And you're below 20,000, you're doing pretty damn good. All right? If you're over 500,000, we don't know who you are.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool because when this movie first popped out, I got to 4,000. 4,000 was my my top now. So it's crazy.
So my question to you is that what is the secret to getting that number to 4,000, or, because we always want it to be low. And mine looks like a bouncing Super Ball. It's down here and then it skyrockets to, 300 and 400,000. Then it comes down, below 100,000. And it's like any kind of secret formula for our listeners.
Sure. Well, it's consistency. It's consistency. It's about going out there because, what's interesting is that number is not just concocted around your name, but also other people that you're working with, projects that you're on. And so the more, obviously, the more popular the project, Five Nights at Freddy's was number one for several weeks, number one star meter as a movie.
Yeah.
And so it really, blew us all up for quite some time. But it's about, I'll be honest, I haven't paid a lot of attention to it over the past couple of years because I've just kind of put my head to the grindstone and it is what it's going to be, because there are people who take a look at that and they'll get discouraged. So I only started paying attention to it again recently because, I don't like to think of myself as a vain person, but it's okay to take a peek at that star meter when it's going up, So I kind of wanted to gauge how the film was doing and how that relates, because the hope is that you're attached to a franchise like this that does so well that you get eyes on you and eyes on the film, and that translates into more opportunity as an actor. So that's the hope. And so when I'm looking at it going, well, hopefully people are taking a look at this and we're able to leverage this into more work moving forward.
Well, I'm sure it will be. Because as successful as this, particular production was, when a film is successful, there's a lot of eyes that start looking at things, casting directors, producers, makeup artists, stunt, everything. And I'm sure that with your success with this film, there's a certain amount of stunts involved. There's another film that I wanted to bring up, and it's called Lyle Lyle Crocodile. And in that is it Javier Bardem? Javier Bardem. That's his name. Yeah. So for those that may or may not know, he was the star of No Country for Old Men, in which he was a scary dude. That film I've watched probably 6 times because it's amazing his character, how he was a unusual character, and his mind was like different. So your role in this particular film was you did stunts. So I've seen in probably several of your past credits that you've been involved in stunts a lot. So how did you get involved in being, a stunt performer or stunt coordinator? And there is a difference. You're either performing the stunt or you're the one coordinating it and coaching it and training for it. So, do you do both? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, I do it all. So my story's quite interesting. I started out in a little podunk, Athens, Texas. It's where I'm born and raised. And, obviously growing up in Athens, there's not, the show business bug isn't necessarily available to you. And so along the way, when I got into college, I got involved in theater and I found a love for acting. And so I'm a conservatory trained actor. And as soon as I got out of college, I went to work waiting tables, as you do, right? And so
Right.
The opportunities, they were far and few in between, in particular when you're a new actor and you're not in a hub, but I would consider LA or New York at that time. And
Right.
well, I spent a lot of time just trying to figure it out. So I read books, I did all this different stuff. And what kind of changed my life and put me on this trajectory was I auditioned for a stunt show at Six Flags over Texas as an actor. And
Yes.
they hired me. They hired me as an actor. And over the next, that job changed my life, because that job led to the next one, to the next one, the next one, the next one. The next thing I know, it was 2010. And I 15 years of work from that one job just kept rolling into the next. And
So this is
along
Six
the way,
Flags up in Dallas.
what's that? That was Six Flags in Dallas. Yeah, Six Flags over Texas. And
Okay.
that I brought the acting to the table, but I learned the stunt work in those live shows. And then I spent about 4 years traveling the world, doing shows in different countries like Germany and Taiwan and Japan. And I wound up washing ashore in Orlando, Florida, working for Universal Studios, doing the Wild, Wild, Wild West stunt show. And that's where once I kind of made a career of it working in the theme parks. And on the side, I would pursue the acting again. I started getting called for doing stunt work on film and TV. And there was this weird intersection of my acting background. I would get the stunt coordinators. Eventually, I went to LA. And when I went to LA, the stunt coordinators knew I was an actor. So they would call me in to do a stunt that had acting bits. And then some of the cast directors knew that I had fights and I had these things. So they would call me in to audition for acting bits that had stunt elements. So I started becoming what is known as a stunt actor. And so the vast majority of my roles early in my career were stunt related in some way, shape, or form. And it's funny, the older I've gotten, now I've got a body of work behind me that my acting has begun to stand out on its own. But even with Five Nights, where I was hired as a straight actor, and it's funny because I looked on the call sheet and I'm like, I've got a stunt double. I've never had a stunt double before.
You are the stunt.
Yeah, usually I'm the stunt double. So I called the Andy Dillon was the stunt coordinator, and we talked, and he's like, yeah, Christian, I know what you can do. Yeah, no. You're going to do your own stuff. I'm like, yeah, because, it was fun, but there wasn't anything too crazy in that movie. There was a lot of breaking things, which I'm really good at, by the way.
Really good at. You would be good in WWF.
I got a couple
tables.
I did one day as a wrestler, and let me tell you something. One of my best buddies was a wrestler, and he had an academy, and so I got in the ring with those guys one day, and I'm like, holy miss! When I was done, I had a respect for those guys. Those ropes are hard, man. You hit those ropes, they're hard.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, I'll take the fake fighting any day.
One of my a guest that I want to have on my show is you may know Chaz Taylor. Yeah, so I want to have him on my show. He used to be a wrestler. Now he's into acting, and we've done I think we've done 2 films together now, and he's a great guy. He's one that that is he does stunts as well. And we were doing the Showdown at the Brazos, and he was a stunt coordinator for us there. And he got shot, and he had to he got shot, and he had to land just basically in the ground. And so I was watching him, and and how he made this cushiony landing and then covered it with a tarp that looked exactly like the same color as the dirt. So you couldn't really tell from the scene that he was landing on anything. And then he did the same inside the bar with another character that got shot. So, yeah, great respect for Chaz. And then on another film that we did, they didn't tell me till I was en route from Austin to Houston. I was driving there, and they said, "Hey, how comfortable are you with like maybe falling in a swimming pool?" And I said, "Like how?" They said, "Well, we want to shoot you, and you're going to get killed, and you're going to fall in the swimming pool." Oh, okay. So there's no stunt coordinator at all. Chaz was there, and he kind of gave me some insights, And but man, my hat's off to stunt people because that was kind of freaky.
Well, we're the blue collar guys, and it's funny because you can see the stunt guys they're hanging out with Grip and Electric. We're the blue collar cats in the industry. And it's interesting, walking the line between actor and stunt guy. Stunts, I owe a lot to my stunt background because literally my stunt background is what provided for me to be able to really sink my toes into the acting.
Yeah.
So been an actor my whole life, but it took me to learn a whole new skill set to be able to do the thing that I love to do.
Well, you've done very well in your career.
I think
that was your. I was going to say, if you have to ever go back to waiting tables, I have a restaurant there.
Listen, I've got personality, and I can fake a fall. You want me to show you how to fall down with plates and make none of those plates fall down? I can do that for you.
That would be funny. We ought to do we'll talk offline about it, but that'd be a neat commercial just to do from a restaurant, like a fake fight or something in the restaurant, like it's like a news story. But anyway, another film that I wanted to ask you about was, this is a little bit further back. This was called Escape Plan. Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you were Babcock. Is that how you say it?
Babcock. That's right, Babcock.
It was you because I remember there was this escape plan. Sylvester Stallone, he was an expert at finding the weakness of a prison, and he would try to see if there was any way to escape. And I think, was this the second or third installment of it?
It was the very first, yeah.
First one, okay.
And I was in the first 15 minutes of that, and I was the weak point in that first escape that he made.
Were you a prisoner?
I was a guard, so I played. I was one of the. It's funny because my whole career, I've got this trademark hair. My hair's been long for the vast majority of my career, and I got this opportunity to play this character in this film with Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Are you kidding me? I'm going to cut my hair. I'm going to do whatever I need to do because
exactly.
Some of my icons, right?
Yeah.
So I played a prison guard named Babcock, and we're just a mess, man. Matt Gerald was the other prison guard, and we opened that movie. Stallone, you don't quite know who he is. He's in prison and he escapes, and he comes back and explains the escape. And it was us. I have a cigarette break that I go on 15 minutes. And I'm over just, shooting the breeze with the other guard and not paying attention. And meanwhile, this guy's, escaping underneath my incompetence. So it was a lot of fun. It was my fault. And so, listen, I tell you, it's interesting working with a guy like Stallone because, this is somebody that I grew up watching, Rambo, and Rocky, and so I try to be respectful when I'm on set, and I try to treat these people like people because that's what they are. At the end of the day, they're we know them and we feel like we know, they're a part of our lives, but they actually have lives, and I try to respect that. But I got to tell you, it was hard with Stallone. I'd walk in and the first day there, I'm watching him. He's warming up on a bag, I'm like, it's Rocky. I'm trying to just okay,
yeah.
It's cool. And then the next day, he's got a cigar, and I'm like, it's Rambo. It's just every day I see this character, all these characters that I've grown up with, and it was really cool working with Stallone. One of the highlights of my career for sure. Oh, before we skip past it, let me tell you a little bit about this Lao Lao Crocodile. I got hired for stunts on Lao Lao Crocodile. And it's supposed to be this crazy scene where they've got flambe and they've got fire and all these chefs and waiters it becomes this big old mess where they're falling all over each other. There's fire everywhere. So it's supposed to be this huge chaotic scene. And this is the way movies work. You get down to it. We got one day. We're running out of time. They said, okay, look, you guys just run around. And my bit, Javier Bardem walks past me and steals a key from my back pocket. I've got a little snap key. And he steals the key, goes around the corner, and continues on about his business, breaking into the backstage of this theater.
Right.
Crazy thing, it turns out that it's the camera's following him, and it dips down to get the key, and then it dips up and follows him. So you never see my face at all. The only thing you see is my keister. The only thing you get is my Christian butt as the camera dips down to take the key and walk away. So my backside has the credit on Lao Lao Crocodile to be 100%.
Well, at least you know it's you.
Yeah, that's right. Stunt butt.
Sometimes films, that depending on your role, you may just get a little bit of a backside, and and that's. People are like, yeah, right. Sure.
There's no such thing as small parts, only small actors and backsides.
Right. That's right. Well, that's what I tell everybody. I said, if you take away all the background actors, the extras, without that, you have absolutely nothing. Because that's what makes the scene. So that kind of lead me into the strike here a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the strike, because that was the longest. Well, like you said, it's not totally over. I mean, they've the union team that did the negotiating had, I guess, accepted what the producers had presented. And forgive me if I'm titling things wrong, but now the union members need to vote on it. And one of the big things was this thing with AI, which I think that I don't care what industry you're in, AI has really ramped up and came on the scene in every industry. And most people are really not familiar enough with it, of its capabilities. And there is a certain level of uncertainties and fear of it. But with my understanding, and is that one of the big things was that they being the producers, they wanted to be able to pay for a character, an actor, to do a scene, and then that basically that person, that likeness of that person could now be captured and used anywhere at any time in any production with no additional compensation.
Yeah, I believe there was in the beginning of the negotiations, there was a rumor came out that the producers wanted to scan extras and then use that scan to populate the film with their likeness, and basically the extra would get one day of work, and then they could use that into infinity. That got negotiated out of the contract. There's some, listen, we're dealing. AI it's a brand new thing, in a sense, the genie's out of the bottle. So you can't put, it's like trying to put electricity back in the bottle. Once it was out, it's out, so it's out.
Here to stay for sure.
So what we have to do is figure out how to work with it, as opposed to, there's no way that we can say, that AI is not going to play a part in the future of filmmaking. It is,
Yep.
At this point. So, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing when people see something they don't quite understand, and there's an existential threat such as AI puts out there for our jobs. Stunt guys are concerned because they can, these AI generated models can replace them in stunt work. So doing photo doubles and all that stuff. So there's a lot of concerns, particularly with guardrails to prevent people from losing jobs. It's funny because as I've been doing my research, there's a couple of things that bothered me about. We're still waiting on ratifying this thing, and so we're voting. December 5th is the cutoff for the vote. And I'll be honest, it's a little up in the air. I thought for sure that it would pass on its own merit, but it seems like it's up in the air. And part of that, the vast majority of that, has to do with the AI language. I'll be honest, at this point in time, I've done my research on it. At this point in time, AI is really expensive to use, and the actor has to be scanned for every piece of wardrobe that changes, and there's a bunch of different things. So at this time, I think it's a little bit cost prohibitive to be doing it to the point that it would neutralize our career. But the problem is that once the ball starts rolling, some of these visual effects guys have said 3 to 5 years before we get to that point. So, we've got to deal with that at some point. And if not this time, then for sure next time, because then it becomes a real deal. It's going to get more cheaper, like any technology. Once it gets mass produced, it gets cheaper and quicker. And that's the way technology works. So it's going to get to the point where it's cheaper to do this stuff and quicker turnaround. And then it becomes a bit of a problem. One of my biggest issues with the current, it doesn't involve AI at all. It involves residual payments for off-camera people like riggers and assistant stunt coordinators, safety people. There's a box that you now check called NP, which means non-photograph, and which means that you may not be eligible for residuals if you're non-photographed, right? So people like riggers and these guys that keep us safe and do all the wire work, now they may be opted out of residuals, and that would devastate the rigger community. There's no money to be made at that point. We live off of our residuals is what basically makes sure that we've gotten, we can pay our rent. So,
on the residuals is there's money to be made off of any production over the course of the initial premiere, and then they're going forward because, there's films that I watched that are 20 years ago. There's always stuff that, or a new generation. My kids, they started watching Star Wars when they got into their teens, and Star Wars had been out for 20 some years. And so there's things that, the residuals are extremely important. But I want to come back to this, but I need to take a quick little break for our sponsor. For our listeners, let's take a little break. But this is our sponsor, the Toasted Yolk Cafe, located at 14105 Ronald Reagan Boulevard in Cedar Park, Texas.
It's never too early to get toasted at the Toasted Yolk Cafe, located at 14105 Ronald Reagan Boulevard in Cedar Park, Texas. Come and be a part of our Toasted Tuesdays, where our morning shots are 50% off all day long. Try the Toasted Yolk Shot. Comes with Jameson whiskey, butterscotch schnapps, and maple syrup, served with an OJ chaser and, yes, candied bacon. Or why not try the Cold Brew, house brewed Jiva cold brew coffee mixed with premium vodka, vanilla-infused syrup, and topped with a swirl of whipped cream. And last but not least, the famous Beachside. Let this cool you down with Malibu rum, pineapple juice, and coconut cream, served as a shot with a candied bacon chaser. Come and be a part of Toasted Tuesdays at the Toasted Yolk Cafe in Cedar Park, Texas.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our interview with Christian Stokes, who is a very interesting man. So we'd left off talking about the strike, and residuals and how that impacts everybody in the industry. Because one thing about our show, we love bringing in guests from the film, television, music industries, but we also like bringing them in from different roles within those industries. You being, definitely a very successful actor, but stunt, you're the first on doing the stunts. But so on the residuals, is the impact of those that are not photographed, would that make a downfall or downturn in those that basically that industry has the skills, the talent? Because across the U.S., there's a lack of labor force in a lot of industries. So with that change, would that make that industry or that craft be harder to fill?
Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, you would lose experience. I mean, I think that, in show business, you're always going to find somebody that wants to do it, that wants to do the work, right?
But you want somebody that's going to do it with expertise.
Well, and when you're talking about rigging, I mean, that's safety. That's a huge safety issue. And so if you lose all your experienced guys, if they cut this out and they move on to a different career field, or they move out of the film industry, now you're stuck with a bunch of greenhorns. And so now the risk, my personal safety is now at stake. So if I go into a scene and I know I got a rigger that's going to tie me off, and I've got to do this, this little somersault over a cliff and drop 30 feet and then stop and hang in midair, I have no control of that. I simply do what they tell me. And put my faith that these guys are the best in the world, and that nothing bad's going to happen. So, and when you look at their resumes and you get to know these guys, and you know that your safety is paramount, you have faith, But then if you lose these guys because they phase out, they decide to retire early, whatever the case is, now you got folks that maybe they don't have the experience. And so, it puts a question mark in your mind. The experience is the thing that I'm afraid of losing. Yeah. And so my biggest issue with those folks with the MP stuff is losing that awareness, that safety awareness. So, I mean, and these are all safety guys. These are the guys that pull the pads on the high falls. If I'm doing a high fall and say I clip a toe as I'm coming over the edge and I'm 30 feet up, I got to have a guy make a split-second decision to pull my airbag so that I land in the middle of it and not bounce off the side and hit a brick wall and, be flat-faced for the rest of my life. Yeah. So these are the guys that it's impacting. These are when you can't watch a superhero movie without knowing that there were possibly hundreds of riggers involved in putting that stuff together. And so that's the risk we take. And I don't think that it was intentionally left out. I think everybody's just trying to get to a deal, and it's something misfortunate that happened along the way. So, there's a lot of us that are on the fence about it. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to vote, because there's a lot of really good things in that contract too. Lots of really good things.
Right.
It's one of those. I don't want to leave anybody behind, basically.
No, I understand. I mean, because the union members are coming from different parts of the industry, and so all need to be considered. So, yes, tough job for for those that do the negotiations too.
Sure, it is.
That's a tough job, and
sure it is. And my hat's off to them, because I mean, that was long. It was hard, and I can only imagine what it was like in those rooms. I've been talking to some of the folks that were in there, and
pretty heated at times.
Yeah, it got pretty heated, and there were some interesting things, like everybody talks about the folks at Universal who cut out all the tree branches, so the leaves during the picket, they were out in the heat the whole time. There was some.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they didn't.
You used to work for them.
I did. Well, I did. I actually worked at Universal Hollywood too. But they didn't, at the studio, they denuded the trees so that there were no leaves. So when they were picketing in the heat of the summer, there was no shade. So that's a little underhanded, But we'll forgive and forget and move on as long as we're all happy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the society as a whole, we all need the industry back.
Yeah.
Because it is probably the number one form of entertainment for people is watching stuff on, whether it's a TV show, something streaming online, film, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So, but definitely, there's a necessity for unions. Years ago, I was a member of UAW, United Auto Workers. I worked for General Motors, and there's times that we had went on strike, and it was for good reason.
Sure.
And I'm glad to see that you guys have, that the union has reached a tentative agreement, and now the members need to vote on. When is the vote exactly?
December 5th. December 5th is when we cast our last ballot. So we're able to vote up until that point. So that's the cutoff. So keep your eyes peeled. I honestly have no idea. I thought for sure it was going to pass, and as I've been paying attention, I have no idea now. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I'm riveted to the screen like everybody else.
Right. So I always ask my guests, always like hearing interesting stories, because you have been in this industry for over 2 decades. You've been on some major productions, and so can you share a very interesting story about a time that you were on set, whether it be an unfortunate, a funny, hilarious, just a heartfelt moment, whatever the case may be, but just a very interesting stories that our listeners and our viewers would be very intrigued about.
Sure. Listen, there's so many of them, but since we're talking about SAG, I'll tell you, I got brought into the union on a movie we filmed it in Daytona Beach. It's called Monster with Charlize Theron, and she ended up winning the Academy Award on this film. So this was my first film, my first major movie. I joined the union off of this, and so a very interesting story. Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman, was the director of Monster.
Oh wow!
And of course Charlize is playing this this hard. She was a prostitute that was killing guys, a serial killer, and she had to do this transformation, and it was pretty amazing to see what she did to go from this beautiful model to this street weary person.
Yeah.
And, well, so I'm nervous, man. I've never been on a big set like this. It's my first time. This is 2004. I did a lot of live shows, but this was my first acting gig. And I remember auditioning for this particular role, and I didn't get the role I auditioned for. I got the partner, and Kane Hodder, who is known as Jason from Friday the 13th. He's Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask. That's that guy. What he got the other role, and he happened to be the stunt coordinator as well. So I get it. That's the way it works sometimes. Sometimes you give a little to get a little. So I take the secondary role so they could give Kane the primary role. So I filmed the night before. I had a bit of a thing going on, and so they got me on film. And the next day, Kane and I are supposed to work together in this bar where we actually are going to set up and arrest Charlize Theron. Well, unfortunately, Kane he had some family issues, and there was a possibility that he was going to have to leave and go. There was like a medical emergency with his mom, and so there was a possibility he was going to have to leave and go take care of that. And so there was a little bit of a panic in the on set. And Patty comes up to me and she says, "Christian, if I give you the script in 30 minutes, do you think you could have it memorized and you could step into Kane's part?" And
oh wow,
that was the role that I auditioned for. So I already knew it. I already knew the lines. And so I'm like, I don't need 30 minutes. I can do it right now. It's like, you can do it right now. Shoot right now. So she calls in the B team, the stand-ins, and we do a camera rehearsal. And I nail it. It was my audition, and so I think she forgot that was my audition, and then she was like, "I'm so impressed. I'm like, well, it was my audition. I showed up today." And so, but I was really, I go through it, then I rehearse with Charlize Theron. We're getting ready to shoot the thing. I'll tell you, my legs were shaking. I'm shaking because now I'm not doing what I get in a mind space and I get used to. Now I'm in a completely foreign role, doing something completely different, and I remember saying, "Please don't look down and see my legs shaking," because my legs were just going because my nerves were all over the place. Kane came back in. His mom was fine, thank God. But I had to move, had to go back to my old spot, which, you know what? That's cool. That's cool. I didn't want to, there's no way that I want to benefit off of someone's ill gain, right?
Right. Well, at least you still, still do that character. It just wasn't in the final cut.
I was bummed out about not getting the opportunity to do the bigger character, but
sure.
So at the end of that scene, Patty Jenkins comes up to me and says, "Hey, listen, we're going to shoot another bit, and these are your lines." And she goes, she thanked me profusely for doing what I did,
right?
But all of a sudden, she hands me these pages, and she says, "Okay, we're gonna arrest her. So you're gonna take her out. You're gonna lead her, and we're gonna arrest off of your cues." And so she gave me a scene, like she just invented a scene for me right there, and it's funny because that's the scene that makes the movie. So I saw Kane years later. He's like, "They cut out all my stuff and kept all yours." Don't take off Jason Voorhees. Whatever you do not take off Jason Voorhees. So yeah, that was my first experience on set and working with the likes of Patty Jenkins and Charlize Theron and Bruce Dern and Kane Hodder. I was the only no name in the room. It was awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's what, in this industry, they always talk about how, it's all about networking, connecting with people, and what you do on set or what you don't do on set or how you act on set. I call it just on-set etiquette.
Sure.
You can create an opportunity or you can destroy an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that's a very interesting story. I like that.
Well, and just like you just said about opportunity. When I moved to LA, when Charlize this movie was making the rounds and she was up for all the Academy Awards, I made sense to me to move to Los Angeles in the middle of all that because I didn't know when my face was going to be in front of all these people again. So I moved to Hollywood, and not long after I got there, I got a phone call. My agent got a phone call from an Adam Rifkin, who was a director at the time. He did Detroit Rock City. He was a big indie director, and he called me in to audition for one of his movies. It was a sizable part, and I'm like, my agent says, "I didn't submit you for this." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't submit for it." So we had no idea where this audition came from. Well, turns out, I believe Adam told me that it was Patty Jenkins gave him my name. So that was based on all the stuff that happened before. So yeah. It's 100% true. Listen, people want to work with people they want to work with. So if you come on set and you're easygoing, you're easy to get along with, they don't want to work with divas. They don't want to work with people that have attitude problems because they have to spend all day on the same set as you do. So if they don't like going to work, they're going to take care of that problem. And if it's you, it'll be you that doesn't come back, right?
Well, you're a cool dude, in my opinion. You got a great personality. And so where do you see, where's your career going from here? I mean, I'm sure you're working on other productions and you may or may not be able to talk about that. Excuse me. And, but where do you see your career going? Where do you want your career to go? Are you want to stay, even at the stunts and acting? Do you want to, you got some roles, certain type of genre of films you haven't done that you really are, biting at the teeth, hoping to get a role in a certain type of film? Because you just look badass. Pardon my language, but you just look badass, so the action, you done Westerns, right?
Well, it's so funny because I haven't done a Western on film. I've done plenty of live show Westerns. I can't even tell you. I've lost count. But I would love to do a Western like Silverado's, one of my favorite Westerns. Those are the kinds of things I love. Westerns are my favorite, but I haven't done a Western yet. I want to, the stunt work, my body's going to tell me when it's time. My body's going to say, all right, bud. All right, let's stop. And listen, I'll be honest, this year it's talking to me more than it was last year. And last year was talking to me more than the year before. So I'm also working in voiceover, doing voiceover acting stuff. So I think there'll come a time when I can't hit the ground as hard. I won't get up as quick, let's just say. Right. And so I want to transition into the voice acting. My acting career has been picking up, doing quite well. Now that Five Nights has come out, I've got some really good bits in that, and I've developed a pretty powerful fan base. And so my hope is there's going to be more on the horizon like that. And it's about. I'm not one of these guys that sit back and wait on the phone to ring. I try to get out and go to work. So one of the things that I'm planning on doing this summer is producing a play. I'm going to produce a play, and it's the stage version of Misery, Stephen King's Misery.
Yeah, that was an excellent film.
It's an opportunity.
Another one of those that, man, keeps you on the edge of your seat, kind of, that was pretty freaky.
I spent, the beginning of my career, I spent doing theater, and I fell in love with acting on stage, and that's where it all started. And at that time, I didn't know that you could actually do this for a living. And to be honest, there's not a lot of money to be made in theater. The money is really in film and TV, but
there really nothing commercials.
Well, that's right. I mean, back in the day, the way it would work is that an actor would make a commercial and use that money to live off of when they audition for their film and TV. And then once they got a little bit of a nest egg, they go do theater for themselves. So, I subscribe to that. Make as much money as you can in the mediums. And then when you've got a little time, do something for yourself. Do one for them, do one for you. Do one for them, do one for you. So this summer, I'm going to try and do one for me. And it's an opportunity for me to showcase my acting ability. And I love it. I love being on stage and being able to form a character arc and do the development on stage in a 2-hour period and get that instant gratification, from the love from the fans.
That is definitely a great, ambitious, goal, and wish you much success on it. Definitely will be following you on that. Would love to come see it once you get to that point. And what was the other thing? I had another thing I was going to ask you that just slipped my mind. We're getting short on time, so with closing, Christian, to me, you're a man with a lot of knowledge in the industry. And there's a whole another generation coming up behind you that is eager to learn and grow and have that opportunity be presented to themselves. So is there any word of advice, a golden nugget that you could offer to somebody that wants to be a stunt coordinator, or they want to do the stunts in a production, or they just want to be an actor? There's a lot to say in that. It's a big statement. Big question. But what could you share that might encourage or help those that are trying to be successful in this industry?
I'll tell you something interesting. About 12 years ago, I had an opportunity to start teaching acting, and I didn't want to be an acting teacher. I kind of always thought, well, that's what you do when you're a has-been, right? When you're retired, you teach it. I can't teach. But I was so wrong. I was so wrong in that mentality. And I started, and I've been coaching as an actor, as an acting coach for the past 13 years. And the information that I've garnered, and I garnered the hard way. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a teacher. This was brand new to me. And no one in my family or in my friend circle has done the entertainment route at that time.
Right.
Now I got a family full of musicians. So, my brother and all his kids went into the music business, but I'm the only one that ever branched out in film and TV. And so there was about a 5-year learning curve. And so this is what I would say. I would say acting is like like building your body, right? It's about like working out. You got to get in the gym to maintain your strength. But you don't have to wait on other people. You can get your friends together. You can shoot stuff. Your phone is a camera these days. You can make your own content. Yeah. You've got TikTok, YouTube. Just always be doing something to better your career. Find once a week, pick one thing to work on, whether it's reading a book, an industry book, a couple of them, Self-Management for Actors by Bonnie Gillespie is a book that I love. I mean, it tells you how to manage your own acting career, from nuts to bolts, right? I watch film and analyze it and watch these great performances and try to understand why they're great. Know how to pick up a script and analyze it for yourself, and don't try to emulate what's been done before. Try to, what I like to call, be the authentic actor. Try to be yourself. Find a way to bring yourself and your experiences into the character, because one thing that no one's got is you. No one can ever do and bring the kinds of characters to life that you bring, because there's no one like you. So you're unique in that sense. So don't be so quick to cave on a creative idea. Don't be afraid to try something new. Let it happen. One of the things that I love auditioning. I think that's my job, is to audition. And I love auditioning because it's my opportunity to show casting for the first time how I see this role. And I don't always give them what they expect or what they ask for. I will in a second take, but I want them to see where I want to go with it.
Yeah.
And then, because sometimes they don't know what they're looking for until they see it. So I'm not afraid to throw my collaboration, throw that spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. Because at the end of the day, I don't audition for my job. I don't audition for this show. I audition for my next audition, because I know that if I get enough auditions, I'm going to land a job eventually. It's like,
you said a couple of things that are really, I think, are golden nuggets, and one is just the doing things to keep yourself active. And the independent film industry is huge in the state of Texas.
Sure.
I was in Houston for many years. I'm in the Austin area now, but there's a lot of opportunities, and you can find those opportunities from a lot of social media groups. You can go on Facebook. There's all kinds of film groups that you can be a part of.
Sure.
And connect with them. And, there's competitions, 24-hour film, like there's
Absolutely.
a 24-hour film competition, things of that nature. So that's very key, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
And then also a comment I'd like to kind of, expand on a little bit when you talk about auditioning is that auditioning is like you say, it's how you interpret the script, the character, and how you understand what that scene was before you come to your part, and what is the backstory of that character. So, but you said that you hit it right on the head, is that they don't really know what they're looking for necessarily. It's you presenting yourself in that character, and it may or may not be what they're looking for. And if it is, you'll get a callback likely. But auditioning is about, to me, and this may be a bad way of presenting, but it's a numbers game. Yeah. You basically, you audition. Auditioning keeps you in practice. So Absolutely. If you audition for 100 times and you get 10 callbacks and you land one role, well, congratulations.
That's right.
Don't ever look bad at, I should have done. I'm real big on that. Once I'm done, I'm move on, because you can't do nothing about it. You've already done the audition, and you just always try to work on improving your craft. But
that's it.
Anyway, just great golden nuggets of information that you shared with us.
You just do the best you can in the moment. And, one of the things that I tell people is don't watch your performance when you're auditioning or when you're doing, don't judge your performance in the middle of it. Just trust yourself. It's like I call marinating the turkey, right? You don't baste that turkey and eat it at the same time. You baste it and let the flavors sit. Then you eat the turkey. So all the work that you do as an actor, prior to getting on set, once you get on set, don't worry about it, because the flavor's there, and it's going to bubble up in the moment when it needs to bubble up because you're connected to it and living in the moment. That's what I love. I love when a role surprises me, when I'm like, I didn't know I was going to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Christian, I definitely appreciate you being on the show. You're very interesting. You're fun to talk with, very comfortable to talk with. So congratulations on your career. Congratulations on where you're going from here. For our viewers and our listeners, be sure to follow Christian you can go on to IMDb, follow his career there, social media. I think you're on Facebook, Instagram.
I'm on all of it.
And so you want to learn and grow in your craft, follow this man because he's been successful at it. So Christian, again, I do appreciate you and thank you for being on the show. And we'll close with this. I always close with giving people some hope, and that is I like sharing a poem, and that is that great it is to dream the dream when you stand in youth by the starry stream. But greater it is to fight life through and say at the end, the dream is true. Keep pursuing your dreams, and we'll see you next week on Entertainment Talk with Claypool.